Hello, good evening again. Welcome to BCL Beyond the Boundary with myself, Simon Booth. I'm very happy to say I've got local rivals in the house tonight. We don't normally invite many of them in, but I've got Chris Barrow and Christian Walsh from Social Circle. Evening, chaps.
Evening, Simon.
How are we doing? You okay? That's as nice as we've ever been to each other, I think. So, that's nice.
It is.
First things first, guys. Obviously, there'll be hopefully a lot of people watching these by now, and I've had a lot of nice messages from people, saying how they've enjoyed listening to folks. So hopefully that theme continues. First things first, I just want you to introduce yourselves, who you are, a bit about yourself, and your involvement at your club. Starting with Mr. Barrow.
Hi, mate. Chris Barrow. So back at Circle where I started. Quick potted history. Junior cricket, always at Circle. Left at 16. Paul TB broke his thumb and ended up deputy pro at Edgeworth out in the wilderness for 10 games. Got shouted at from Lancs. Pointed in the direction of that might not have been the best move at that point in time. And Jim Kenyon got hold of me and went up to Blackpool for probably 3 years. Ended then at Farnworth. Back at Farnworth, that's where our kid was playing. That's where everyone that I went drinking with was playing, which is why I went back to Farnworth and then shifted back across the Circle in 2008, 2009, something like that, and then just been there since. In terms of involvement with the club, youngest lad's not into his sport yet. Lottie's not quite got there yet. So from a junior point of view, I haven't been putting a great deal back, but we'll see what comes in the next few years.
Good stuff. Christian?
Yeah, Christian Walsh, or Christian, many of you might not know that is my name. Walshy mainly to most cricketing, the cricketing fraternity, I guess. Circle, born and bred, started when I was 8. Mum and Dad live over the road, still live over the road, so very committed to Circle and always have been since that age, really. Did 20 years, came through the junior ranks, quite successful junior teams throughout those ages. And then played senior cricket, lucky enough to make my debut at 15. Back end of a season playing with Rod Eswick, which was quite an experience as a 15-year-old when you think you're the bee's knees and you go and play with someone like Rod Eswick and you realise that actually you've got an awful lot to learn. So that was an experience. And then 20 years later, a couple of wins along the way, played with all my mates really, which was a fantastic opportunity to do that. And then retired a few years ago on the back of a win, which was good. Still involved heavily in the club on the general committee, still involved on the cricket committee as well, focusing on just keeping the club going from a non-cricketing perspective and obviously an investment from a cricketing perspective as well. So, and my 2 lads play as well, which obviously makes it a bit easier when they're involved. So, yeah, still tied to the club, Boothie.
Nothing wrong with that, mate. No, happy days. So I don't know who obviously wants to take the lead on certain questions, and you can fight it out between yourselves. But I've got a slight agenda to work to. I've done the similar sort of thing for everybody so far, just to keep some sort of continuity to it. But knowing us like I know us 3, we'll probably go off piste at some point. But first things first, whoever wants to take on the sort of the cricketing side for the club, I want to ask you with regards to 2020. Obviously, we're in the now. What were your club's plans for the 2020 season in terms of players? Any club improvements, anything going on, and obviously possible events in your social calendar?
Yeah, so I guess it's been unfortunate, really, given what's gone on circumstance-wise. So we'd lined up a South African professional who was an all-rounder. He was going to be the figurehead of our team. There's quite the team itself, the first team, this has been through quite a significant change in the past 4 or 5 years, with senior players leaving and bringing some juniors in as well. So we were under the new leadership of Liam Ashworth, which would have been a great opportunity to see Liam in that role, supported by senior players like Chris, Tim, Tongi, Mav still, and to have a figurehead pro, which we've not had for a couple of years, would have been exciting to see. So that's unfortunate, but it's the circumstances that we're in. In terms of plans for the club, we are still committed to the route through juniors and the coaching setup that we've got that Tim Rees leads on for us. He's our head coach. He's been our head coach since 2010. That's massively important to us as a club because of our rich junior history that we've got. that we all three of us have a link to in different times. It's been massively important that we keep that investment, we keep that structure, we keep that commitment to juniors. And this would have been the third year where we took registration quite early this year. So we'd registered 54, 55 kids from about February through to when we went into the lockdown, really, which would have been really exciting to see those kids play some form of junior cricket. And, you know, I heard you talk to Josh Buchanan about when he made his move from Farnworth, and you were talking about Farnworth recognising they had a problem from a junior structure perspective. We were in the same place come probably 2009, and we looked out on a Sunday morning and the under 13s looked really thin. We realised then, look, we needed to do something and invest in that structure. And Tim Rees has brought had a great impact on that in terms of his investment in schools, his investment during training, his coaches he brings. So that feels quite solid, and it's a shame, again, unfortunately, due to the circumstances, we've not seen that come to fruition in some guys this summer.
Well, based on today's sort of news, as it were, from the government and from the ECB, it's looking like we're not going to get much cricket in senior cricket before August, but there might be a glimmer of hope that a bit of junior cricket might start, hopefully mid-July. So, you know, yeah, you allude to Josh Buchanan, and obviously he said about his, you know, going to social as a junior, etc. And, you know, I made no bones about it. Social have always produced quality juniors, and I think one of the unique things about social is that a lot of the juniors have gone on to play first team cricket and done very, very well. So I think that there's not many clubs can say that they've done that. So credit to social and the social junior machine. Possible events in your social calendar. I know that you know, there's a big team at social who look after this. Can someone give me a bit of an insight into that?
You say a big team, Boothie. I think you'll probably recognise this from your involvement in Farnworth. It tends to be the same people that do many jobs, really. It looks maybe from the outside as a big team, but from an events perspective, we've established Stephen French has done a great job. Tongi's had a big involvement in this. Danny Wild. The guys have kind of set up some structure to our events where we've got the same kind of events in an annual period that we just roll over because we know they're successful. They range from making the most of a T20 fixture on a Sunday afternoon, which you guys have been involved in the past. That if the weather's all right, you get a bit of revenue from that. I think most clubs have latched onto that. We roll into a sportsman's dinner that we did last year. We're looking at race nights that we're trying to get the regular fixtures in the calendar once every 2 months maybe, and it just brings that revenue in, and that's what it's about, as well as keeping the club members engaged, because sometimes in the winter some members will drift further than others, but it's important we try and keep that engagement with our members because it makes sure that they feel that community with the club, which is what it's all about, really.
So just swiftly moving on, I'm going to go into more of how the current situation has affected the players and what have you. So I think we'll try and bring Chris in here. So in terms of, obviously, you know, coronavirus, COVID-19, whatever you want to call it, how's that situation hit the club in terms of senior players and then maybe juniors? Maybe Walsh can pick that up.
I think from a senior players perspective, we're probably the same as everybody else is. Everyone's got their own WhatsApp groups, and you know, you try and keep in communication through those, but it's nothing like something like this as such as seeing a face, and you know, just trying to keep some form of communication to keep morale going. Personally, I have actually suffered quite badly through the last 8-9 weeks. But that's just a personal circumstance, and everyone will be affected in different ways by what's going on. And as Walsh mentioned before, in terms of the old guard, which have always been at the circle, that's still a group that goes live, and there's probably about 85 messages knocking around on it now. So from that point of view, the lads are all still very much in contact with each other. I think the ease of the lockdown and bringing some golf back is helping to get some social source of, you know, interaction back. Yeah. From a club point of view, having that with my old man, but there's nothing happening. Nothing can happen. It's just waiting to see what can happen, and as and when things like bars and clubs can start to reopen, how can we reopen those safely and how can you do it safely and attract people into them as well to, you know, to try and get that cash coming back in over the bar.
From a junior point of view, Walsh?
It's not dissimilar, really. It's hard. You can't get people together. Obviously, that's been difficult. We entered into a new deal with Icon Sports in the winter to provide our junior kit, and we managed to get all the orders in, actually, again, as part of the registration process, which we were a little bit early this year. But actually what we managed to do is, despite the lockdown, is distribute that kit in a safe manner to the kids. So there's been a little bit of a buzz about that, actually, because there's no cricket. You know what kids are like. They love a new kit, whether it's football or cricket. And just to be able to kind of share some of that has been nice, and it's kept that feeling about it. And obviously, since the ECB announcement prior to today, there was the one-to-one coaching. Grounds can reopen with relevant regulation structure in place, and we've done that. So booking system for practice has started to get that interest going again. And I think it's just about trying to keep that engagement, like Chris says. There's more social activity, I think, with adults and senior players. The kids is just about trying to keep that connection and that engagement, so that when we are ready to go, and it ramps up a little bit, whether it's mid-July or August, the kids feel like, right, we're good to go, and they're chomping at the bit, you know.
Yeah, it is difficult, and I think, you know, people have got their own personal experience, and obviously at Falmouth I'm heavily involved with the juniors, and the only way I've been able to do it is we have a closed Facebook group with all the parents and the kids on. We've just been sharing videos of, you know, I mean, I interviewed Bushy from Wharton the other night, and I've been sharing his videos from Twitter. Custer Power, who's the pro at Greenmount, he's got his own sort of coaching thing he's putting on YouTube. So we've just been doing that, sharing videos and getting people to do things. And well, like you say, it's very difficult to try and keep the kids going, and it must be very difficult because obviously, you know, social do quite well with the juniors, and they must be dying for a game of cricket at the moment. Next, I want to sort of dive into pros. We've sort of touched on your professional, and I don't mean to sort of go on about professionals this year, but I think professionals in its entirety, and obviously three people as ourselves have played a little bit over the last 20 plus years. So professionals and overseas amateurs, obviously this year in terms of, you know, plans around social, and I didn't know whether you're having an overseas amateur or not, but, you know, what do you think pros bring to our game at our level, and what's the importance of having pros and overseas?
I think we touched on this very briefly, obviously, just before we came on this, and you look at the standard of pros that you could get 20 years ago, which is no criticism of the pros that you get now, but because of the amount of cricket that's about at the minute and the other competitions, and I think, as you touched on, Walsh, even the clubs who've got massive money still can't get the big names that you did used to get. And touch on, go back to me being miles younger, and you had Faz over in his first season, who he'd worry you from Wednesday. You know, it wasn't something you would ever look forward to from a weekend point of view. And not only that, you would usually have someone like maybe a Swifty or someone backing him up from an overseas point of view. And you compare that to what it is now, and like I say, it's not meant as a criticism of players now, but it was farcical when you look back at how strong it was.
Yeah.
You know, the pros are a massive part of the game. I think one of the best decisions the league have taken recently is definitely to bring the overseas amateurs back, because it does help the standard of the game, that the knowledge that they impart on the game. I think one of the most impressive ones recently, the lad last year at Horwich, he was a quality player. And he's worth 2 or 3 on his own. You know, players of that standard really can count for 2 or 3 in your side and across the season. So they're a massive part of the game without a shadow of a doubt.
One of my biggest faux pas of the season when he came in, and I had a go at him for having longer. I asked him if he'd like a bobble. Didn't see the funny side, and he got 60 odd not out, absolutely creamed us all over the park. And then on his way off, he just turned around and said, "Have you got that bobble?" So fair play to him.
Touche.
Oh yeah. I mean, he made me look a bit of a fool that day. So no, he was a quality cricketer, and I think he brought a lot to Horwich. And obviously having Brett as well there, and the rest of the lads. And I interviewed Chalky not long ago, and you know, he said that they've gone from strength to strength at the club. So based on Christian then going on about the juniors, they've added a good professional, if not one of the best, and then thrown an overseas in as well. Bit of a gamble. I think they'll probably admit that, but he was a great cricketer. Christian, anything to add on pros and overseas?
No, I think Chris is right in terms of what they add to the game, in terms of the quality of standard, if you like. I think there's an additional bit in terms of the value they add around a cricket club if you get the right fit for your club. So the juniors, you know, when I was growing up, you'd look up to people like Rod Eswick. We had Wendell Coppin. We had all kinds of pros that you would be in awe of as a kid growing up. And I think they act as an inspiration to young cricketers coming through if they're the right fit for the club. So if they're around the club on practice nights, if they're around the club of an evening, they get involved and they interact with the kid, they interact with some of the second teamers, you know, you create, and I think that's what you referenced there at Horwich. They've absolutely nailed that. Helser's a fantastic cricketer, but he's also a fantastic guy as a person and for the club. So he's a great fit. And I think that just then helps develop that kind of presence amongst the club, wider than the first team, that adds to the juniors, adds to the other senior teams as well. So it is important. It's hard to get that fit though. Sometimes you've got to take a gamble. When you've not got the budget and you can't buy a name, you do sometimes have to take a gamble, and it doesn't always work out.
Yeah. Moves us on to T20 cricket. So what I want to know is obviously what the plans are at Social in terms of T20 cricket and how that's sort of viewed and perceived at the club. And then in the future, because obviously looking at today's announcement that we might not get some cricket until August, I think the league are looking at a T20 programme to alleviate some of the problems. So I'd be interested to know what your club wants from T20 cricket. So I don't know who wants to start me off.
I think, go on, Walshy.
He doesn't play for starters, so
I was going to dive into him first, but I'll let it.
Probably the most impactful T20 player to have played Burnley cricket doesn't play. No, I think from a club perspective, this year is a bit of an exception, as you say, Boothie, because of the circumstances. So clubs will look to try and take an opportunity of T20 cricket to bring some revenue in. That's a fact in a safe manner. That's an opportunity. I actually, and Chris will probably be able to expand on this, but I actually think cricketers may now want to play T20 this year because that might be the only cricket that they can turn out to play. So we want to do more in the T20 space of the club because it brings in revenue aside from just this year. It's got a good feel about it. Given some of our key players haven't played for a number of years, we've actually done all right. We've made the semi-finals twice in a row. So I think if we can make that commitment as a club as that being a target area for us longer term, I think we'll do a little better. And these kids coming through as well at 14, 15, 16, that's what they believe in. That's the only cricket they truly believe in at the moment. So they're itching to play, They just need a balance with that experience.
Okay, go on, Chris. Sorry,
but just coming off the back of Walsh, I mean, it's T20 is just a growing and a massive part of the game. Again, it's something now which is it is going to become the main format of where the cash comes in. I think inevitably. From a personal point of view, it's obviously crept up in the background, but priority for me has always been League and Cup. It's just the way that it's always been. And in the last few years, with me not playing every single game that God sends, something goes by the wayside. And at the moment, that's always been the T20 format. Whether that'll change in the coming year or this season or in coming seasons, we'll wait and see. But I think at the moment, just any form of cricket, I'd be jumping at a chance at.
Yeah, I think everyone's in the same boat on that one. And are Social sort of still looking on the premise of having the 2 games on the Sunday to maximise that?
Yeah, that's been.
I think so.
Yeah, it's been financially viable for us to do. We've done it for I think 3 years in a row now, and we make it a bit of a family fun day kind of feel about it, and we get big interaction from our juniors on. And when we play clubs, when we have a local derby, you guys come on. If you play first, you stay and have a few beers and watch the second game, or you come on a bit early. You've got that feel about it. So we recognise that as an opportunity. I know when you look at clubs like Horwich have absolutely nailed it when you look at what they do a Friday night and a Black Rod derby or whatever. They've absolutely nailed that, and it brings in fantastic crowds, and they've got a really good template to try and follow. We had to do something slightly different with the Sundays, but we're maturing that, and hopefully it'll continue to be successful for us.
We went down the route of the Friday, and I was speaking to Chalky about it, and obviously asking him about the Horwich thing. And the only problem that we had is that it impeded on the junior practice night on a Friday, so we had to move that to a Thursday for a 6-7 week period. But certainly when we had a Friday night game at Falmouth, there was a lot more people turned out, and the way that we're set up, you want people down there having a beer and watching, and fingers crossed we can try and do a bit of that this season, and if not, we might have to do it over the weekend.
Yeah.
Current situation we're in, obviously there's a lot of stuff. It's changing on a daily basis. We're all glued to the telly at 5 o'clock listening to Boris and the rest of them. How do you think this will affect future years in terms of cricket, if at all? Chris?
I think it just like you say, it's a watch this space. It's never changing beast. I think I'd seen something early doors where they're interviewing the likes of Alistair Cook around if you could get cricket played again, how do you actually, what can you use instead of something like spit and sweat? And those sound, obviously they're really crude methods of shining a ball, but they're a fundamental part of the game. And those are the problems that I think we need to address and challenge, and they're the things that I can see would still need ironing out. And just social distancing. You stood up to a stumps is no good to man the beast, is it? You're within 3 foot of a batter. It's how we can play the game safely, just working around the limitations that we've got given the current environment. So I don't think there's a particular answer as such. It's just how we can get back to playing cricket safely is where we've got to get to.
Christian, do you think it'll roll into next season, or do you think we'll be back fighting fit?
Well, I think a lot of that is difficult to answer, Booley. As you said before, it's changing on a daily basis. Touch wood, it seems to be changing from a positive perspective in terms of the progress you're seeing across Europe in terms of, we seem to be a little bit behind, but we're taking similar steps to following in their path. I don't think it'll have a long-term effect. I think once we get down to the root of the virus dying off and we get vaccines, etc., so after maybe the next 12 months, we'll probably be back to normal. It may impact next season depending where we are, whether there's a second spike and all the things that we read in the press as being the possible risk of easing the lockdown now. It's difficult to say. I kind of think we'll learn a lot from what we implement from August that says, so we're going to do this in senior cricket. Chris is right about social distancing as keepers, as we know. How does that work then? So there are bits that you kind of have to consider that I think we'll learn from now through the rest of this season that can take us into next season if we have to go into playing next season with some precautions in place. But I guess everybody's got the fingers crossed that this will be an unusual period for the next 2-3 months, and next season we'll hopefully be back to normal.
Happy days. Right, chaps. Thank you very much for your time. That's the nicest in the last 10 or 12 years we've ever been with each other, I think. So that's different, I think. That's the best way
I've always got on with two of you, just never at the same time.
Nicely. Gents, thank you very much for your time. That's been Chris Barrow and Christian Walsh from Farmers Social Circle. Thanks, chaps.
Cheers,
Cheers, Cheers, Walshy.
No problems.
Cheers, pal. Take it easy, bud.